Welcome back, CU Buff fans. You have seen the new ride that Deion Sanders Jr., aka Bucky, has been driving around Boulder for the last week. We're going to go into that and tell you what he's driving and kind of how it plays out in Colorado. But before we do that, let's thank our subscribers. So for those of you who are subscribed to our channel, heartfelt thank you very much from me, Chris. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. So Prime is coming to Colorado. All of his kids came with him, and one of them is Deion Sanders Jr. from Well Off. You've seen his videos. I know that's probably a #1 video that all of us watch. Bucky had delivered in Boulder a 2023 C8 Stingray Corvette. That thing looks hot. It looks like it's black, although it could be maybe a little bit of navy blue, but I think it's black. The new C8 Stingray, if you guys have not seen that yet, it is what Corvette is trying to do to be a little bit more competitive with Ferrari. So Ferraris are generally mid-engine cars. So the engine sits between the driver and the passenger, not towards the back like a Toyota MR2, for instance, but more in the center. And what that does is it makes the car handle a lot better. So the weight of the car, which primarily is the engine, transmission, is all in the center of the car, which makes it a little bit easier to drive at high speeds on tracks. And in this particular case, Corvette knocked it out of the park. That C8 has been the hottest thing going for several years now. This new version of it is even hotter than normal. So we're going to go through this. We're going to kind of walk through it and tell you the reason why Bucky probably bought it and what makes it so hot. And then after that, we're going to talk about driving a C8 Corvette Stingray in Boulder, Colorado has a particular set of challenges. And we're going to help Bucky navigate those and then what you can do to make that car more drivable here, especially in the winter. So the 2023 Corvette Stingray has a very big power plant in it. So we're talking, it still has a V8. These Corvettes still have V8s. Almost nothing has V8s anymore. They're all either V6s or straight 4s or hybrids or fully electric. And Bucky actually has driven Teslas before. You've seen him have a Tesla when he was in Dallas. So you know he likes electric cars, but there's no substitute for a V8. In fact, let me take a pause right there. And what we're going to do is, you know this is Alpinegaragesports, right? Well, we are a garage. We actually rebuild cars. So let me show you kind of what we're working on, and I'll give you an idea of why I'm so interested in this story. Come on over here. All right, so this is a 1973 Ford Bronco. In Colorado, SUVs are all the rage, and we do a lot of off-roading, so this made a lot of sense to us. So much that we bought a second one, which is a 1974 as well. And they're going to be vastly different from one another, but they both have V8s because up at altitude, much like athletes have a hard time breathing, so do engines, and you actually lose horsepower at altitude. So the more horsepower you can have at altitude, better off you're going to be. So we actually have a full-size V8 motor in this small little truck, and it's going to tear it up. So I just wanted you guys to see kind of what we work on and kind of why we're interested in Bucky's new car. So that's it. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can go to our other channel, which is just called Alpine Garage. You get to the V8 in this car. This V8 is a massive V8. It's a 6.2 liter V8. Which is a big V8, and it puts out 490 horsepower. It puts out 470 pounds of torque. So what's the difference between torque and horsepower? For a lot of you may not know that. Torque is what you're getting when you're smoking the tires. That's what actually puts power to the road. Horsepower is going to be the actual speed of the vehicle. So speaking of speed of the vehicle, this C8 Corvette Stingray is going to do 184 mile per hour top speed. It has actually been tested over 190 miles per hour. You're not going to get that fast here, Bucky. I can tell you that right now. But there is a little bit of a secret. I do know a place that you can, and it's not that far from you, so give me a call. So that said, it is a very fast car. It actually has a brand new front splitter on it. It's got a new side intake on it, so you can see when you open up the doors, part of the intake comes up with the door. And then it also has, when you get inside the vehicle, it's got a new cockpit. So you have a 12-inch screen over there on the right hand side, which is actually, you can manipulate that as a driver. So you can change the performance aspects of the car, and you can set performance parameters that you want the car to do right on that screen. It's a very intuitive vehicle. I believe that this is a GT3 package, which is the highest package you can get without going to the Z06. because of the red leather option. So in that particular package, you can get up to 8 colors in the interior, and one of them is this brilliant red color. And it goes all over the car. I mean, the thing is just, when he opens up those doors, that red is just screaming. And it's actually a hallmark of Corvettes from days past. One of the best 2 combinations is either a white with a red interior or a black with a red interior. And he got the black with the red interior, and I think it's outstanding. I don't know that he could have got a better vehicle. If he were to bought a Ferrari, or if he were to bought, you know, a Lamborghini or something like that, it might have had more imminent flash from the standpoint that it's a Ferrari or Lamborghini. But with this particular vehicle, especially driving it in Colorado, the insurance is going to be so much better. The car is just as fast. And honestly, you can get parts for it. So if he damages a splitter, let's say the splitter is the bottom of that front part of the car. In Colorado, there are very few driveways that are not like this. One of the things about that Corvette is it has a lift on it. So if you flip a switch, and that lift will actually raise that front end of that car 2 inches, so that when you're going up these steep inclines, and the University of Colorado actually has some of these because it's a pretty hilly area, he can actually lift the front of the car to keep that splitter at the bottom from getting damaged. But if he does damage that splitter, he can get another splitter at a fraction of the cost it would cost if he had a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people around here that drive sports cars that are moderate to fix, because you're going to get it damaged. Now, that said, it's a very fast vehicle in an area that isn't really designed for fast vehicles. Also, with the winters here, it makes it incredibly hard to drive a very high horsepower rear-wheel drive car. So I'm going to give you some advice, Bucky. So you own this car. It is going to be probably one of the better looking cars in Boulder, I can tell you that. It's a very wealthy area, but not a lot of people have this type of vehicle. Most people put their money into vintage trucks, or they put them into new trucks. But very few people buy really high-end, very low-profile vehicles in this area. So he's going to stick out in a positive way because it's going to be a hot-looking car. Probably every car show in town is going to want to have him there. In order to get around in the winter, you're going to need to get probably a set of snow tires. Now, what snow tires are is there's 2 different types. There's one that's an aggressive rubber that actually helps stick that car to the road. And then there are some that have little metal studs in them. And you'll hear that when you're driving around Colorado when it's not snowing. A car will drive by and you hear clickety, 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 click as it goes through. And what it is it's all those metal studs hitting that dry pavement. It is okay to drive with snow tires on dry pavement, but the state really wants you to switch those out come the end of April or May to a standard tire so that you don't tear up the roads. But what that'll do is that'll enable him to drive it, not necessarily when it's snowing, because when we have blizzards out here, those tires still aren't going to do much. But once the snow ends and the snow plows come through and plow off the very top layer of snow and get down to pavement with water on it and snow on it, that's when these tires really shine, because 2 or 3 days after the snow, most of the snow has melted in Colorado because you're at high altitude and that sun's beating down on the ground and it's going to melt that snow pretty fast. But there's shadows everywhere, and those shadows will not melt for sometimes months. So when you're talking about driving around Boulder with the top buildings, especially on campus, he's going to get that car into areas where it's going to be tucked behind a building, and that snow will not fade from there very fast. And he's going to need that extra grip. So having snow tires on there during the winter is going to help him a ton. Now, once winter's over, you drive it right back down to the tire shop and you have those tires switched back out again to summer tires. It's really not that big a deal. It is an extra expense for the tires, but honestly, when you've got a $70,000 to $110,000 vehicle, it's a small price to pay to not wreck that thing into a pole. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is make sure you take that down to somewhere where they can put a protective film on the car. It's called a PPF. And what it is if you like the black and you don't want any other colors on it, they can put a clear film on that thing to keep the rocks and the salt from eating your paint. So even all the way through probably the middle of June, before they really clear the roads of all that sand and salt that's been sitting there for 6 to 8 months, you'll be driving behind somebody and you'll think you'll have 5 car lengths in front and you're fine. Then all of a sudden a rock hits that paint and cracks that paint. And especially on a fiberglass vehicle, that is a no bueno. So that PPF is an absolute must if you don't want that vehicle to get damaged. The second thing on that part is that he needs to get insurance on his windshield. So a lot of times when you buy the vehicle, it asks you, hey, do you want the insurance on the windshield? It'll allow up to 2 windshields a year sometimes. Regardless of cost, you get the insurance, because you will crack a windshield here. Those rocks, when they don't hit the paint, hit the windshield. And when they crack the windshield on this vehicle, you're talking well over $2,000 for a windshield. So having that extra insurance is going to be well worth it in Bucky's case, if he's planning on driving it the entire winter. Now, that said, that's how you drive a Corvette Stingray in Boulder, Colorado, without being scared out of your mind that you're going to damage the vehicle. Now, there is one other thing you can do. You can park that vehicle in a garage, and there are plenty of garages around town that actually specifically store high-end vehicles during the winter here in Colorado. There's several of them, and I'm positive there's one in Boulder. And then you go out and you get yourself a Bronco Raptor, the new Bronco Raptor. Still extremely fast, well over 500 horsepower, so even more horsepower than the Corvette has. It's got a giant lift on it, big fender flares, leather seats. Bucky, I'm telling you, would look amazing in this. I've actually got a Bronco myself, and I'm telling you, you need one of those things. And when you do, you can take the tops off and everything in the spring when it gets to be 70 degrees, but it just snowed 3 days ago. You can take the tops off and drive around campus like a king. And then at night, when it drops back down below 30 degrees, put the tops all back on again and you're good to go. That's a wrap from Alpine Garage. I hope you found this informative and fun. We're just having fun here, trying to see what Prime and Bucky and Shadur and all these guys are doing out there. If you liked what we put out, go ahead and like the video, subscribe. We're going to be mixing it up. You know, that way it's not always breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. There's got to be some culture involved in there. It just becomes a big rattle can sometimes. We coming. We'll see you in the next video.